topic is a smart. Professor Barbara is an educator, and she is assistant professor at Polytechnic University of Milan, where she is also a research scientist and the coordinator of the Urban Simulation Lab, and since its foundation in 2007. In the lab, she coordinates and leads projects related to experimental simulation and sensory urban design. She leads the participation in research calls and management of funds. She is responsible for the national and international networking and the numerous national and international seminars and conferences like today. So welcome, Barbara. We can start your very influential lecture today. So we are all ready to listen. Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation. It's an honor to be here, even if virtually, which is, of course, coherent with the lecture I'm going to give. I'm going to share the screen. Please just let me know if everything's fine on your sides. If you can see it properly. I hope yes.
Okay, yes.
Okay,
yes. Yes, clearly we can show, so you can start.
Okay, thanks a lot for the feedback. Okay, so it's a pleasure to be here, and what I'm going to present today is actually research that I am developing from some years, more than 10 actually, and what I'm going to present you today is a theoretical part and then some applications of the theory and the innovation that we have developed through some funded projects, European projects, basically. So everything starts with a specific point of view, which is the experiential perspective. So the focus of the research is actually not on the environment per se, not on it is related to some environmental conditions of that specific moment. So, of course, having this approach leads to really have to manage with a very complex system, which is actually reality. This is something not new to architects and planners. So, of course, we design in order to provide an optimal experience of people in space, but focusing on these perspectives allow us to reframe traditional things in an innovative perspective, and I will show you what I mean more precisely. So, for instance, we move from focusing the attention on the physical environment to the perceived or better environment experienced by people. So, from the physical environment perspective, we speak about space, but when we filter the space through the lenses of the human beings, space becomes to support the design process, to make things invisible more evident and more comparable, to take, of course, a proper decision of the urban environment that will, at the end, affect thousands of people. So the idea is to use different tools, especially augmented and virtual reality, to create a substitute of reality that can enable people to perceive environments as if they were in that specific specific reality through simulation. So of course it is possible to simulate a scenario of today condition, but also a scenario of future condition, and this is crucial. If it is possible, and we did it, to assess the accuracy and trustability of a simulation in terms of recreating the proper relationship between the person and the environment, then it is in the existing condition, then it is possible to assume that we can study the relationship between the person and the environment, also future conditions that do not exist so far, but of course that will impact thousands of people in the future. Okay, so the idea to using this type of immersive subjective simulation in a realistic manner is to, it has, let's say, three main goals. One is to inform people by direct experiencing the environment through a naturalistic interaction with the simulation. It means that we don't have to use a joypad or things like this to move within an environment, but the way, for instance, we look around, is it equal to the way we would look around in the real environment? And the portion of the scene that we perceive in the simulation is actually the same one that we would have in the real environment when developed. So this is important because, of course, all the dimension of the dimension and the proportion of the place, the colors and the atmosphere should be at least very similar to the one that will happen in reality, to assess properly the relationship and so the reaction of people to that environment. Of course, the first goal is to inform people about the future transformation in a participatory process, of course. The second thing that can happen is that since people react to that environment, both rationally but also in a more behavioral way, somehow less rational but more instinctive, we can collect data and observe the reaction of people in order to have relevant data that tell us which is the experience related to that environment. And of course, in this perspective, it is crucial to have people reacting, real people, I mean, not, let's say, simulation of cellular automata, for instance, reacted to an environment. But real people, because of course there's the entire background of the person and the specific mood they have in that specific moment is crucial to properly assess the future condition, especially if we consider that our cities are becoming more and more intercultural. And so it is really hard from the perspective of the architects to envision all the different nuances, differences that we have between one culture and the other, between, young people belonging to a specific background and older people and so on. So reality is very complex, and how to be sure that we are providing a good design project is not an easy task. So by sharing data, so if we share information with people, and if people allow to share their own experiences with the professionals, then we are creating a virtuous circle, and so we can assess the environmental subjective experience with an evidence-based design approach. It means that we can measure the experience. And how to do this? We can, for instance, by putting together a psychological reaction with more typical architectural perspective about the features of an environment, we can, for instance, understand which is the emotional dimension of spaces. So we can somehow attach to the space which is the average emotional reaction that this space can provide. We can also understand the cognitive dimension. So to which extent a place is able to tell us something about itself, to which extent it is easy to understand, to which extent the place call for an exploration through motion in the environment itself. And of course, another very important thing is the identity of places. So which is the type of identity that the place has for the community, which is the intensity of this feeling of bond with the environment. And the idea here is clear. By analyze such types of reaction, the goal is to create a proper dialogue between all the actors involved in an urban transformation, to create a shared representation of the city, of the environment. And so, as I was mentioning, people receive information easy to understand, that enable them to properly envision which will be the future experience of a place under transformation. At the same time, they will tell professionals which is their own experience, and this will support a decision-making based on the experience of people. So the idea is to create, to encourage the development of a conscious and shared cities that put together citizens, public administration, privates, and of course also the research field. It's, at least so far, it is not always involved in this process of transformation of our cities. So the goal of the method that we developed, which is named Experiential Environmental Impact Assessment, is to collect the subjective perception of people, understand which is the average experience. Of course, it is not relevant, and also it is not ethical to study the reaction of one person, but instead it is very relevant and important to understand which is the average experience. If there is an average experience, that of course will be the one that people will mainly have when experiencing a place. So how to investigate this shared experience to inform urban transformation? This was the idea behind the method that we developed, the X-Realty method. And this method is now inserted in a mobile application that I will show you in a while. And this method enables to measure and to make readable some experiences, some reaction of people to the urban environment. So we put some psychological constructs taken from the literature into the app. So the idea here is that to investigate the subjective reaction of people, it is really important to have a scientific base to be sure that the outcomes are reliable. The other thing that we do through the app and the method is to understand how people behave in the existing and future environment. And we study the emotional, cognitive, symbolic, and the identity of places. And all these things together are relevant information that we can quantify. So it means that the method can be applied several times along the design process, and very relevant in the architectural field. All this information are spatialized. So we can use the methodology for assessing the two-day condition of places, and this is what I'm going to show you in a while. And as I mentioned, using augmented and virtual reality to pre-assess the reaction of people to urban transformation or landscape transformation. Of course, the methodology can be applied in different moments of the design project. So before the formal approval by public administrations, and this can include a comparative assessment of design alternatives, for instance, within a competition. So as an element of evaluation, we can have the reaction of the majority of people to a place. Then we have during the approval of the design project and after the approval during construction or as a post-occupancy evaluation methodology. The method that we developed was done thanks to 2 European projects, and now there is another European project going on that started in September, so very recent. And so this project is, just to tell you that the process is an ongoing process, an ongoing project under development. And of course the app will be updated accordingly. And the goal remained the same, even if the goal remained the same one, the features and of the app and the possibilities, of course, will be further developed to analyze the experience of people. So this is the app. It works in 2 main ways that can work in parallel or together. So for instance, there will be one option is to understand the perception of a neighborhood, an entire neighborhood. Of course, we never experience a neighborhood altogether. But we perceive the atmosphere of a neighborhood. We have a mental image of a neighborhood. So if we assess the neighborhood as a whole, what we can compare, what we can understand is let's say the memory of the neighborhood, how we perceive that neighborhood in our mind instead. And this is a bit more innovative. if we would like to understand the experience of people when moving through a space, we can switch to the point of view perspective. And what happened here, it is possible through the app to enter in a subjective perspective and to visualize, this is the Duomo Cathedral here in Milan, to visualize the environment, the city in virtual reality, meaning that you can be located whenever, when you want. You don't need to be in presence in the place, and you can move through the space in virtual reality. Another solution instead is to use augmented reality. So you can be in place and you can move through the space and visualize the existing condition or a design project superimposed to the existing condition, superimposed in real time. And in both conditions, both augmented and virtual reality, what it is possible to do is to interact with the app. The app, at some points, the app will ask you to do some things. For instance, locating elements onto the scene, the urban scene, and these are all data that we collect in order to do some analysis. So, through the app, we can put the theory that I have just described into practice. And of course, we did it in several case study applications, several pilot applications. These are only some of those. We did some cases in Europe, in the US, a lot of course in Milan, are based in Milan, but also Spain, and so on. There's a list on our website. And what I haven't mentioned so far is that if the number of people involved in assessing the area, it is possible then to do a targeted analysis, which means that we can understand how the geography of emotions and the cognitive geography of places changes according to, for instance, age of people, cultural background, or all the information that we ask when doing a socio-demographic at the very beginning of the app. When you register, you have to put your socio-demographic data, and this enables us to do this assessment that is a targeted assessment. In this case, what I'm going to present is the outcomes of a virtual reality exploration and an augmented reality exploration on the campus area, our campus area in Milan. As I was mentioning before, in the top of the image, the name is Quartiere here. You can see the location of, let me see if I can maybe put a pointer, it's easier. Okay, here, I guess, I hope you see it. Yes, here there's okay, there's a delay as far as I understand. Okay, in the top part, there is the assessment of the neighborhood as a whole. And as you can see, the whole neighborhood is perceived in this emotional model. This is a traditional emotional model of by Russell, which is a typical construct used in psychology. As you can see here, the whole neighborhood is perceived as exciting and elated. The more you are near the center of the model, the less intense is the reaction. The more you are versus the periphery of the model, the more intense is the reaction. Here we have a mild reaction. Just to understand, the upper part is related to emotion that activate the person. The down part is instead related to emotion that deactivate the person. while in this in the right area you have emotions that are let's say positive, and instead non-positive emotion on the other part. So if we apply the same methodology but based on the experience of people in space, for instance, these are images, the 360 images that people assess, you can see that to that neighborhood assessment corresponds several different emotions through space. So of course there's a great emotion, which is this one, that is related to the main square of Piazza Leonardo, which is actually a very symbolic place, and also it's a pleasant place. While in the same neighborhood there are other places that are perceived in a very different way, even leading to depressing experience and somehow tense situation, meaning that probably there's a problem of perception of safety and security. Okay, so to repeat, probably you have to remove the laser pointer to go on. Okay, Opla, sorry. Okay, so what we did is actually analyze not only the position of the person in space, but also what they were actually seeing, perceiving from a specific point of view. So, okay, thanks. So, for instance, this is what you see, for instance, here in yellow is what it was perceivable in a number of meters, and from this specific perspective, which is the red point, and the same for the rest. So what you see here is that we attach the emotional reaction based on the graph, the model I've shown you before, and so attaching a sort of emotional reaction to the experience of the environment. ISOVIST, this is the name of this, the analysis that can enable us to understand exactly what is perceivable from a specific perspective, can be partial, as this one, so related to the direction of the site, but also as as you can see in the bottom part of the slide, 360 ISOVIST can show the potential of what you can perceive from a specific perspective, so 360 view. Of course, this is not representative of the way we experience reality, so since of course we have a certain degree, angle that we can perceive. If imagine that a lot of people answer to the questionnaire that we do, and of course you will have a lot of overlapping reactions. What we do is that we do a cluster of those reactions. For instance, in this point in the right part, bottom right of the image, you can see that, and this is very interesting, from the same perspective, there we have two clusters. So some people were looking down the south, towards the south, and they had a specific reaction, which is more or less depressed. I can understand why, because it's a very place with a lot of asphalt, and that's it. On the other side, there were people looking towards the north, but exactly from the same point, and the reaction was slightly different. Not that good, it was said in any case, but there's a difference, which implies the fact that according to the view, the place changes, the perception of the place changes. And this is crucial, so we cannot assess an environment from above, let's say. We have to spatialize things according to the way we really experience the environment. This is another type. I'm sure you only some types of outcomes. This is another type of outcome, for instance, regards the landmarks. It is some landmarks are really architectural landmarks, such as the entrance of the main historical building of Polytechnic of Milan. But there are other unexpected landmarks emerging, and this is, of course, where the method is most useful. For instance, this is the awful underground exit for the metro station, which is totally not relevant from the architectural perspective, but indeed it is a landmark for people using this place every day. And also the entrance of architecture, which is nothing very, let's say, recognizable, but instead for students of architecture is a crucial place, and so on. So also there's a market here and some other places where the perception of a landmark is less intense, but still relevant. So of course, this type of analysis can inform how to design an area, how to renovate, regenerate an urban area. Another thing that we do is to analyze this in the same manner, but an entire path, not, let's say, pop-up views, but an entire path with some specific perspective, specific analysis in relevant points. This is the study that we did. So we were moving with along a participatory process, stopping in some relevant areas, and people were looking at the environment, answering some questions. And this is the result. As I was mentioning before, there's a great variation according to along the path, depending on the position in place. And on the top you can see the screen, the most representative screenshot taken by students participating into the survey, and the color of the image represents the emotional reaction related to it. If we analyze the path as a continuum, it is very interesting to notice how the emotional reaction changes. And of course, we can represent those reactions more precisely according to the view of the places. And here you can see with the darker color the central view, in the lighter color the peripheral view, where of course we perceive less details, but it is in any case important. And with the dotted line is the view that was perceived from the mobile, through the mobile application. What happened, just to describe, just to let you understand some possible outcomes, it was clear, totally clear, that there was two patterns in the experience. And so the first four places and the path that connected the first four places were actually a positive experience, to simplify, while the second part was not that positive, and there was a decrease in the emotional experience. What was really, really interesting was that at the same time, while doing the experience, we did also a recording of some environmental features, and this is the project that is actually under development. So what you see here in the map, bottom right, is we measure the temperature along the path, exactly when people were moving through the environment. It was a very hot day for Milan, and what was quite surprising to me was that even if the temperature was very high in the first part of the slides, of the map, sorry. Here, I hope you can see my pointer. Even if the temperature here was quite high, the emotional reaction was still very good, very good. So, meaning that even if the temperature was high, to a certain level, an hypothesis that we can do that should be further investigated is that temperature were not influencing that much the emotion, at least the emotional experience of a place. Indeed, in the second part, where the temperature of the overall environment was lower, and this is what it was perceived. So the opening of this new research is which is the relationship with the environmental objective, let's say, measurable environmental features with the reaction of people. To which extent, for instance, temperature doesn't affect the emotional reaction, which is the limit over which instead temperatures start to change the mood of people in places. Of course, it is very relevant since we are facing a climate change process, and so on this other side, which is to which extent places can support a positive experience, even if the temperature, for instance, or other environmental conditions are not very good. This is a crucial question that we have to clearly think about and clearly address. So this was just an example of an analysis of an existing condition. There are more, but of course we do not have time. And yeah, this is but this give let's say an overview on the overall work that it is possible to do with an interdisciplinary approach and an interdisciplinary team, which of course I would like to thank all my colleagues. It's not a work that can be done alone. It's a work that involves a number of people, very good and clever people, I have to say. So thank you a lot for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much. It's very interesting presentation, and wow, 2 person there. Okay, so it's very interesting, and there is very innovative technology applied. It's kind of, like, a lot of citizen participation design process. So I think particularly like some cognitive maps and emotional related, some like design involvement, something like this. So I'm very happy to see. Today actually we don't have enough time. I'm very sorry about this. So we cannot get the question from the audience. There are many students here, and they are some design, urban planning, architecture students. I'm pretty sure that they are very kind of inspired by this kind of more advanced design process. And I'm very thankful about your influential lectures, and we hope to see you in Italy or Ho Chi Minh City soon. So thank you very much, Barbara, and yes, we are all happy to listen to your lectures. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, everyone. So we can wrap up this session. If you have a question, you can ask Duan and to get some like email address, and also Barbara can maybe some answers about some detailed question about the lecture. So thank you very much, everyone. Bye bye.